A lot of industry spokespeople who don't necessarily understand the dynamics of the market think that landlords are just money grabbing. But as tenants are feeling the squeeze, so are landlords.
It's a good way of making money and also making some social impact as well by providing homes for people who need them.
Is that what got you into it?
I must admit it was the financial element that got me into it.
You know, and landlords, there are a lot of landlords now who are losing money every month, and nobody ever talks about them.
There are 11 million private renters in England, and if you polled them all, I'm sure they'd say that it absolutely stinks. A third of private renters' household income goes on rent, rising to 41% in London. That means that renters barely have enough for Adidas Sambas or Onlyfans. Private renters are 5 times more likely to experience financial hardship than homeowners, and studies have shown that private renters age faster. I should know. I'm actually 13. With 4.3 million missing homes in this country, the housing crisis needs radical action from everyone, including landlords. Private renting is the second largest type of home occupation in this country, so landlords house a ton of people. I want to know what they're doing to help out.
So where you used to go to a dinner party and talk about what you did, I know a lot of landlords no longer say that they're landlords because it just gets too difficult sometimes.
And where are your properties?
One is in Portsmouth, the other one is in Yorkshire.
Excellent.
So one is near University of Portsmouth and the other Yorkshire we have got somewhere in South because I haven't been there. I'm using it through letting agent.
I've just got 2 at the moment.
Excellent. At the moment?
Yes.
Have you had more or less previously?
No, looking to do more.
But till the end of 2026, I wish to have at least 50, at least one BHK 50. It would be tough, I know that, but 2.5 years from today, and one of the, as I told you, I have one of my friend who has got money to invest in me, because looking at the way I work, so I plan to do that. Not big ones, but small. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, but this is my, again, kind of aspiration. Yeah, how it goes is depending on the situation and all the legislations.
It's a good way of making money and also making some social impact as well by providing homes for people who need them.
Is that what got you into it?
I must admit it was the financial element that got me into it. I took early retirement from my corporate career and so used the money I could get cash-free out of my pension to buy some properties. That was a mistake because I should have used the money to mortgage them instead, then I could have had more, but there we go.
It feels like the whole environment is problematical, so the government seem to be introducing lots of anti-landlord regulation and taxation. And there's lots of pressure groups who seem to think that everything that's wrong with the private rented sector, it's all landlords' faults.
And which pressure groups do you mean?
Charities, the likes of Shelter, and that's the one that springs to mind mainly, which I find odd because they don't provide any shelter. They get lots of charitable donations, but I'm not aware of them providing any shelter, but they criticise those of us who do provide shelter and accommodation, and we provide homes.
Adrian, are you a landlord yourself at the moment?
No.
But you're looking to get back in?
Yeah, well, I kind of am, but, you know, it's on a small scale. Yes, I'm definitely looking to get back in, yeah.
What is it about this market that's appealing?
Well, there's essentially a recession. This is a time of change, and when you get change, so for example in the 70s suddenly, you know, divorces became big. That means that people needed 2 different places to live in instead of 1, so you had a lot of subdividing of accommodation. That's what we're seeing now. We've got a shortage of accommodation here, and particularly with the rise in HMOs and so forth. It's how you subdivide a family house into 5 units for young professionals and create more units. So that's it really. It's a time of opportunity.
One of the speakers said today that we shouldn't call ourselves landlords because that sounds a bit feudal. We should say we're housing providers because that sounds more like what we actually do. And I think the government should recognise that and make its legislation to facilitate people continuing as landlords and or as housing providers and becoming new ones rather than driving people out of the industry, which is what's happening at the moment.
It's hard to, as a sector, to be constantly criticised for trying to do the right thing when a lot of the stories that are sensationalised on the news are really the very bad landlords, and they really are in the minority. So it feels like all the good landlords are being hit to counter the rogue landlords who should be dealt with anyway. There's enough legislation and regulation out there for them to be dealt with as it is. So.
And then your house where you live, do you rent that?
Yeah, I'm living as a rent for now.
So there's an interesting dynamic. You're a landlord, but you rent. How do you get on with your landlord? What's your assessment of them?
They're nice, like they don't bother me. And it was like my sister's. The sister has rented it out, so she's renting 2-bedroom hall. So I'm in 1 bed. So she's dealing with that, and we are paying on time. So otherwise they're good. We had some problems in meanwhile, like Windows problem, too much drought. So they changed it. Mold problem. It started in bathroom, but they fixed it. And so otherwise landlords, if you're paying on time, they don't mind helping us as well. So that was good for us. Yeah.
Lots of people are talking about challenges within the industry, like the introduction of the rent reform bill or the abolition of Section 21. How do you feel about things like that?
I think that, funnily enough, from what I've heard at the event today, I think I agree with the speakers who said that let's hope that the Tories get the Rental Reform Act done ASAP, because if they lose the election and it's left to Labour, we reckon it'll be a lot harder on us. So there we go. But I think that I don't think it's that much of an issue, and I think that what gives tenants better protection is not a bad thing.
Well, I think if you were ever thinking of being in the property business long term, you should always have been thinking about the end result, inheritance, and also what is the corporate structure, how is that going to work, in the long run. And basically, they've ended up, not through necessarily fault of their own, but, because they haven't done that, they've ended up being caught short by this. Had they set up a limited company, then it wouldn't be happening, would it? So, I don't know. Do I have any sympathy? No. No, not really, because they could have taken advice and then they'd been advised not to do that. So, and I think they probably did slightly better over those years. So it was just a bit of greed. It's a bit like if you go to, somewhere in the Middle East because you don't want to pay tax and you get kidnapped. Whose fault's that?
Now I'm in a network of really professional landlords, and there's quite a few of us, in fact quite a lot of females, and I know that a lot of them feel in despair at the minute because their costs have gone up, their mortgage and finance costs have gone up. Not every landlord has a mortgage, but most people do. And so I think that a lot of industry spokespeople who don't necessarily understand the dynamics of the market think that landlords are just money grabbing. But as tenants are feeling the squeeze, so are landlords. And the problem is, because it's a business situation, if your cost base is higher than your level of income, so for landlords, they're not getting the rent to cover their increased mortgage costs, it means that they're going to go bust. And so ultimately, that tenant is going to be out of the home and they're going to be homeless. So it is a very difficult situation. So I'm not sure the amount of regulation there is necessary.
As in every industry, there are rogues. But the majority of landlords, I think they said that the statistics are that 85% of landlords have 1 to 3 properties. Either a couple getting together and renting out the other house while they move in together, or inherited from the death of parents. And so renting it out, helping other people get to have a roof over their head when they can't afford to get onto the housing ladder, I think it's not a bad thing.
If we want to have good housing stock, we need to be increasing supply for all types of housing. And we need to be encouraging landlords back into the sector, particularly the private rental sector, because that is the biggest sector at the moment who are providing homes for those who can't afford to buy.
There's a housing crisis in the country at the moment, and a lot of tenants are going to be facing the brunt of that as a cost for the landlord rise.
Yeah.
The rent increases, and people's wages aren't necessarily going up. Do you have empathy for tenants in that situation?
Yeah, I do. And I think also that landlords are getting the short end of the stick there a lot, because quite honestly, we're trying to make more units available. That's what we do. We don't just make money. We try and provide nice homes for people, and we try and provide more homes for people. There are a lot of government initiatives which we're following now to help get more properties available to tenants. So yes, of course, because they're in a real life situation and they maybe have difficulty in paying the rent and all that sort of stuff. It's a recession. Everybody's got their difficulties as well. So, and landlords, there are a lot of landlords now who are losing money every month. And nobody ever talks about them. Not obviously, everyone assumes they're rich, don't they? Oh, no, they're the 1%. No, they're not. And, they're just regular people who foolishly bought a house when interest rates were low without doing any research.
Obviously, there's a housing crisis in the UK at the moment. Do you think landlords kind of have a duty to alleviate that?
No, I think that the government has a duty to alleviate that by facilitating new home builds and by having legislation that doesn't force landlords out of the private rental sector, which is what has been happening as a result of the latest legislation.
personally speaking, me always been working with charities in India as well. If you can let go few of the rents, like say, if you're earning 20% rather than 30%, you should try and do that. It would helping someone in 10% would be life saving for someone else. Like it could be a month's salary for somebody.